nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Tryna impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Tryna impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Yeah, you know I'm back like black tracksuit with a black top cap. People love to try, people love to lie. People forget stuff, remember that. We done them good, you remember that. We needed someone, here's the facts. But people love to try, people love to lie. Yeah, this is London, mind the gap. Living life just multitasking. Smile like a horror movie, I'm laughing. Motivated and focused, crafting. Dash something in a break, all your eggs in a basket. Can't handle it, why you asking? Can't handle it, why you asking? Can't handle it, why you asking? Please don't try it. Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Tryna impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Tryna impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Yeah, you know I'm right. Vibes are here when I am outside. Born for the flows to keep the flows tight. Tell me why they love to lie. Soul is dark but the mind is bright. Nocturnal, we live for the night. You wanna try but yeah, not quite. Monster with the bars, yeah, I might bite. If I have to, I tighten up the mic. See me, I don't do it for the likes. Keep it Air Max, yeah, like my nights. Ooh, I like to plan before I strike. But what do they know? Frequency's high, it never gets low. But yeah, what do they know? You're dripping in drama from head to toe. Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Tryna impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Tryna impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always?
Hello everyone, happy Saturday, hope you're doing all right. Oh my goodness, I do apologize. I got a very last minute call about something and I've been frantically trying to get that sorted, so I'm very sorry about that. But here we are, back on another day on these royal streets. Please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, and let's get going. Here's some recent live pictures. Yes, I'm still in Istanbul. Finally managed to visit the Blue Mosque. I did a really cool cruise. Right, let's see who's here. There's a reason. Sorry, there's a certain sinkhole in Florida that just reopened, and I would like to stick Dan Wooten in. Oh gosh. Let's not bother America with Dan Wooten. He needs to go back home. Let them deal with it. See who else is in the chat. I think all the usuals are here. All right, well, there's almost 400 plus of you here, so I won't keep you waiting any longer. And let's get straight to it. Right, start with some good news. An update from Archwell. So Archwell, as we know, have been doing a lot of work surrounding gender equity. and they collaborated with a organization called Equimundo. Equimundo is an organization working internationally to engage men and boys as allies in gender equality, and they have released a State of the World's Fathers 2023 report. They conducted research across 17 countries and surveyed thousands of men and women. The 2023 data shows that men are increasingly involved in caregiving and would like to increase their care work at home, although deeply ingrained social norms and lack of supportive policies and power structures discourage them from doing so. The report recognizes care work as the bedrock of society and calls for continued advancements towards gender equality. It also emphasizes the need for media representation that normalizes men's caregiving roles. The Archwell Foundation is proud to have supported this report, as well as Equimundo's continued work to promote gender equality around the globe. Fantastic! And you can go to the Archwell website and read the full report. And it was a nice thing to see in the Netflix documentary, you know, just behind the scenes, normal life of the Sussexes at home with their children. And I can absolutely imagine that Harry is a very, very hands-on dad. This is something that he's spoken about, kind of the lack of warmth in the royal household. And I'm sure that's something that he would want to give his children to break that cycle of trauma. Great work from Archwell. Thank you so much, Dawn. And thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much. All right. Next thing. Suits. Suits has been getting so much love, topping the charts in Netflix streams. I think it was something like 2 billion minutes or something like that. A lot of people watching Suits, loving Suits, and a lot of new people discovering it for the first time, which is great. It's great to see so many people discovering who Meghan was before she entered into the Unroyal Mafia, because I've always felt that part of the reason why they had her delete the TIG, they had her delete her Instagram, was so that they could create an idea of her in people's minds, that idea being very negative, and then they'd have absolutely nothing to go off or to see what she was like before she entered this institution. I think it was very, very deliberate on the institution's part to do that, and it succeeded, because, you know, can you imagine if you had someone come into your family who was as successful and accomplished as Meghan was? That is something that you'd be proud of. That's not something that you would try to hide. And I just don't think there was any justification whatsoever to have her delete her blog and her Instagram. You could have just left it archived. Anywho, great pursuit. What they wanted to do is feed you ideas like this. Do we all remember when Meghan invited Daniel over for avocado toast and tea, and UK media spun that into Meg's favorite snack is fueling drought and murder? Never forget. And also, I didn't cover this, but apparently there was some article that went round about Meghan and her white shirts, and white shirts being some power move or something like that. I don't know. I saw it briefly on my timeline and I just scrolled past because I was just like, I am not even paying attention to this nonsense. But the squad decided to take that ridiculous headline and turn it into a trend, and they have been posting their best pictures of them in their white shirts, which I thought was really cute. And those are some of the pictures from the squadron. Apparently it was something like White Shirt Day on the royal Twitter streets. But yeah, I have no idea what the whole white shirt thing was to do with. Maybe it was Meghan causing murder and drought wearing white shirts. I don't know. But the squad decided to turn it into something funny. over to the Dan Wooten saga. Dan Wooten saga continues, and it would appear that the individuals who are trying their best to investigate Dan Wooten over at Byline Times are being threatened. So Byline Times posted this. They said, update to our next Media 2 Dan Wooten story. There has been some illicit attempts to access our work by unknown third parties. We're conducting a full security review, but with our IT consultants, this may delay our next story a little. They then posted an update, security update 2. The same team member who we believe was hacked had blood smeared over the windscreen of his car this morning. This may very well be a coincidence, but rest assured both incidents have been reported to the police. Somebody responded to this saying there is a probability attached to coincidences, and the probability that this was two random events arising from different processes seems very small. Still doubt where doubt is wise. And Byline responded by saying it seems much less of a coincidence the more we investigate. This might delay our next story to Monday, but wrongdoing must be rooted out. Then somebody responded, and I believe that's actually a bot. Somebody responded saying, this definitely didn't happen. And then Bylines responded by saying, we have photos and a police report. You have a block. So they got photos, folks. Photos and a police report. Not that I'm having much faith in the Metropolitan Police nowadays, but this is definitely intimidation of journalists. And Byline are the only news outlet in the UK who are doing this level of thorough investigations into Dan Wooten. Can you imagine? Nobody else would have been doing this if it weren't for Byline Times. And they are fundraising, by the way, for their lawyers and also to pay their journalists. I think that's at something like 30,000. So please do go and support them if you can. Every little helps. I donated £5. Every little helps to get them to where they need to be, because this is a lot of work, a lot of resources, a lot of their time, and they are an independent outlet. So I will just give me a sec. I will get the link, because okay. So I've just looked at the link, and they have actually raised over £34,000. So that's above the £32,000 that I wanted to raise. And I know that a lot of that money is coming from the squad. So please do give, and give generously, please. Right, and that is the link, okay? Now, in response to this, Dan Wooten is now trying to raise his own money. And he tweeted this. He said, a hard left blog is on a deranged campaign of harassment designed to destroy me financially, mentally, and professionally. But with your help, they will not succeed. Please support my legal case against Byline Times so I can keep fighting for you. Now, let me just say that Byline has written articles that are across the political spectrum, left and right. So I think that's a very unfair assessment of them. And he also went after one of the lead editors, to which he responded, Dan appears confused. I'm editor of Byline Times, and it's hard deep, not hard left. Hashtag Byline Times. So even she clapped back and said, what on earth are you talking about, bro? What are you talking about? And Dan Wooten seems to have put his hand right into his network and pulled out all of his best cheerleaders, the likes of former UKIP guy Toby Young, Sarah Vine, who was so insufferable she was divorced by Michael Gove, and other such characters. And if that is the best that you can get to defend you, I think it really says a lot about you. And I haven't had the time today, but I'm sure that there are squaddies that have screenshot. I mean, because he retweeted all of their supportive tweets. So we're going to have receipts in the future of all of the people who supported Dan Wooten. And I think they are absolutely going to live to regret supporting this troll. this criminal troll. The audacity of him to be trying to raise money. And I think Kevin Sutherland, one of the victims of Dan Wooten, actually tweeted, how is it that this guy is trying to get money from people when me, the individual who was actually AR'd by Dan Wooten, isn't trying to fundraise for money? So I actually don't believe that he is raising this money for any type of legal case. Mind you, the last I looked, I think it was at about 20,000. All of those people who donated to Dan Wooten, you might as well have just burnt that money. I don't believe that he's raising this for a legal case. I think he's grifting, and I think he knows that the walls are closing in. He will likely have to pay out damages to a lot of his victims. 12 people who claim they were blackmailing, who claimed that you blackmailed them, and an additional 6 people from your past employer claiming that you bullied them. Are all those people lying? And there are likely more victims that just haven't come forward yet. Are all of those people lying? They can't all be lying. And when you ask, well, why hasn't the police had a better look at all of this? Well, this is the reason why. This is Cressida Dick. She's the former Met Commissioner, getting awards from both Lizzie and Charles, despite the fact that she was one of the most disastrous Met Commissioners that we've ever had. The Metropolitan Police is in an absolute mess right now. So this is the reason why things don't get investigated. And Jay Beecher tweeted this. He said, Dan Wooten hasn't denied he had multiple bullying complaints filed against him. He hasn't denied that a girl was suicidal due to his bullying. He hasn't denied 12 individual serious complaints. He hasn't denied that he used a fake name to harass people. He said he made errors of judgment but didn't elaborate. He went on a 6-minute fake monologue, lying that the accused are a plot to take down GB News. In reality, the accusers made the police reports before Wooten even joined GB News. They could be lying, they could be not lying. But people blindly defending him and rejecting calls for an investigation, and now even laughably donating their own cash to a multi-millionaire, are politically biased, hypocritical, and brain dead, indeed. And we will not forget the names and faces of every single person who supported Dan Wooten. I mean, how many people do you know have been accused of blackmail by a dozen people and who've been accused of bullying by another 6? Right. I think that is pretty much all I had to say regarding that matter. Actually, sorry, folks. I had a blast from the past, but I seem to have forgotten to put it on a slide. Dan Wooten wrote this. Let me just give me a sec. I'm going to go through my pictures because I just forgot to put it on the slide, but I actually want to read this out because I think it's very important. Dan Wooten, back in 2001, I believe, wrote a letter to William in the Daily Fell. He wrote it in the Daily Fell and it was addressed to William. I am so convinced at this point that Dan Wooten has something on William or on many of the royals. And there is definitely some kind of connection to the treatment that Meghan has received here. And if you remember in the Netflix documentary, Meghan said, I wasn't thrown to the wolves, I was fed to them. So just give me a sec to find that headline because I do want to read out that that article. Okay, so you can't actually see the headline in there, but basically the headline says, as Prince William dumps the tame ITV reporter who joined Team Meghan, Dan Wooten writes an open letter telling him that tough love is now the only way to show Prince Harry where his true interests lie. And while I'm reading this out, I want you to also remember that Victoria, gosh, I forget her name, the lead editor of the Sun newspaper, her name's Victoria, I can't remember her second name. She had a palace insider on a retainer, and that palace insider is thought to have been Callum Jones, who was an associate of Jason Knott. Right, let's get to reading this. Wild, absolutely wild. Oh dear, 1 second, folks. Okay, here we go. It reads, Dear William, sometimes you have to accept there's only so much you can do for a sibling. Also, before I carry on with this, this is just really weird. A UK journalist writing a letter to a prince in a tabloid, and knowing what we now know about the connections that Dan Wooten had to the palace, clearly via Jason Knott, who was a communication secretary for William. Anyway, it goes on to say, for 20 years after those tragic events in 1997, you were a rock for your brother, the only other human being he could entirely open up to and trust. Your father was absent and distant. Given the deep-rooted bitterness you and Harry both feel about the way Charles treated your mother, the paternal relationship was understandably strained for many years. As a result, you often took on the combined role of Harry's surrogate dad, chief of staff, and best friend. That is a lie. We know that now, because of what Harry wrote in Spare. It wasn't always easy, especially as scandal followed scandal for your brother, the drugs, the NAZI uniform, the drunken altercations, the RS language in the army, and the strip poker incident in Las Vegas. But you always kept the faith with calm and wise counsel behind the scenes, imploring harsh members of your family to give Harry the chance to grow up while making mistakes. As was you who convinced Harry to seek professional help to deal with his mental health problems. That is a lie. So writing complete lies. He first saw a counselor after you assured him by saying, look, you really need to deal with this. It is not normal to think that nothing has affected you. Well, it's actually Harry that went and got treatment. And it seems like William, despite being a so-called mental health advocate, hasn't sought enough treatment, if indeed he has sought any. He seems to be the one with the issues here. And this is why it's so important that Harry wrote Spare and was so candid. So that is his words on the record and not the words of the likes of Dan Wooten writing revisionist history. He goes on to say, when your wife Kate entered the scene, she immediately bonded with your brother too, becoming a trusted companion and then a work colleague. Well, we now know from Spare that Harry would often, Harry was expecting to be invited to Kate and William's house, waiting for that invite. It just never came. He thought that he would be a close uncle to George. That bond just never came. Anyway, he waffles on a bit, but I just find it very strange that Dan Wooten, in light of everything that we know now, Dan Wooten would write a letter like this in the Daily Fail. And it's a very long letter, by the way. It goes on and on and on. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Anyway, I'm going to end with your comments and then we'll call it a day. Thank you as always. I really do hope that what's happened here? Guys, can you hear me? Is my sound okay? Because I can't see your I can't actually see your comments on the screen. Oh, okay. Now I can see. It's like your comments just completely disappeared. Okay. Now I can see. Thank you so much, Black Queen, for the 3 copies. Much appreciated. I mean, this is just wild behavior. You've got journalists with blood being splattered all over their cars. Oh. Yeah, Star, I can't believe he's still on screen. It's interesting, though, that he is fundraising. I think he's also trying to make himself appear as a victim, but also I wonder it's just because he's not being backed by his overlords. His overlords have already decided to throw him under the bus. I don't know. Or maybe this is just his way of acting like a victim. So I think his letter to William was a warning, possibly. Just a way of saying I can wield power with my platform. William would donate to Woo under a secret name for sure. Jeez. Wendy, you said Dan knows a lot of dirty secrets from royals to government officials. Well, the fact that no one is saying anything. I mean, I don't think I've heard anything from any top government officials. I think I saw one MP retweet the Byline Investigates article. But no one is saying anything. Journalist is really a stretch over the Grand Canyon, indeed. Annie Bullard. Annie Bullard, I'm not going to put your comment on the screen, but you know something? The way things just get wilder and wilder, would it shock me? I mean, Dan Wooten was very good at playing friends with people, only to do a 360. He did it to Carolyn Flack. He did it to Alexander Burke, where he would buddy up to people and then all of a sudden just turn. So he would get inside the gossip basically and act as your best friend and then turn into your worst enemy. All right, I will end things there. Thank you so much, folks, and we'll see what tomorrow and Monday brings. We still have a part 3 of that Byline Investigates investigation, and there probably could be more because more and more people are coming out. I think this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. I think we have to expose him to the point where the media as a whole can no longer stay silent. From what I understand, there is an American outlet that is also doing an investigation into Dan Wooten. I think that the international media has to jump on this. And then after he's exposed enough, I think then we'll see that the part 2 of this will be the rats all eating each other. Hopefully one person with enough name recognition will come forward. And then maybe we can get the ball rolling. And then it's like all the, the can of worms is fully opened and they can't close it again. And then maybe his overlords will throw him under the bus. But I don't see this like going to trial or Dan Wooten ending up behind bars. I think you're looking at least a year and a half if this was to go to trial. And a lot of, all of his victims came together and did some kind of class action lawsuit, and then maybe 2 years and a half before he's behind bars. Like those are my time frames, especially knowing how slow the legal system is in the UK. Benjamin, is getting out of hand and has been for a while. Indeed. Thank you so much, Kim Peaches. Doing my best. All the squaddies are. Rahini said, squad, we need to start to ask his supporters, what does Dan have on them? Yeah. What does Dan have on all of you lot? Oh, thank you so much for the super chat, Harlem. You said, and I thought H said William told him to get help dealing with Diana's death. Then years later, Meghan told him to try again. Oh, okay. Maybe my memory deceives me. But I thought it was the other way around, that it was Harry that asked William. But okay, maybe you're right. Maybe my memory deceives me. I do apologize. All right, folks. I will see you tomorrow. Ciao, ciao.
Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Yeah, you know I'm back like black tracksuit with a black top cap. People love to try, people love to lie, people forget stuff, remember that. We done them good, you remember that. We needed someone, here's the facts. But people love to try, people love to lie. Yeah, this is London, mind the gap. Living life just multitasking. Smile like a horror movie, I'm laughing. Motivated and focused, crafting. Dash something in a break, all your eggs in a basket. Can't handle it, why you asking? Can't handle it, why you asking? Can't handle it, why you asking? Please don't try it. Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Yeah, you know I'm right. Vibes are here when I am outside. Born for the flows to keep the flows tight. Tell me why they love to lie. Soul is dark but the mind is bright. Nocturnal, we live for the night. You wanna try but yeah, not quite. Monster with the bars, yeah, I might bite. If I have to, I tighten up the mic. See me, I don't do it for the likes. Keep it Air Max, yeah, like my nights. Ooh, I like to plan before I strike. But what do they know? Frequency's high, it never gets low. But yeah, what do they know? You're dripping in drama from head to toe. Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it. Really, why do they always? Nah, don't try it. You can't feed me lies, won't buy it. Question everything, told them, nah, don't try it. Yeah, but you're moving like some sidekick. But you're moving like some waste man. Trying to impress me, won't like it. Be yourself, man, please don't try it.